Esther Hook is a retired doctor. She spent the first half of her career working in general medicine and community medicine in the UK. But shortly before her 50th birthday, she trained in tropical medicine, then began working in overseas relief work with the international organisation Médecins Sans Frontières. Why did you move into overseas relief work?
I always wanted to work overseas from the time I was very small. When you're aware of all the problems overseas, for some people it's so much easier to simply say, there's something I can do about that. I can go and work overseas and actually do something to help the situation.
So why did you choose to work with MSF in particular?
Well, Médecins Sans Frontières is an organisation. It is an international and private organisation which works mainly in conflict and with major epidemics and with people who are excluded from healthcare in their own countries. It focuses very much on quality medical care. There is no place for poor medicine for poor people. It appealed to me because I had worked in situations where healthcare was a poor relation in that sometimes less good medicines and less innovative work was done because people could not afford it or it was never done that way before. For me, it is important that the innovative and the good treatment is done for everybody, whether or not they can afford it. And this is what MSF has specialised in over the years.
Was it an advantage or a disadvantage to get into overseas work at an older age?
Well, it's certainly true that most overseas work is done by younger people. However, when you're older and your family don't need you around anymore, it's often useful to be able to offer the experience and the life experience as well as the work experience, and the fact that you've often worked in a team and you can understand team dynamics, and also that you can understand and respect the people that you're working with. Younger people have the energy and the drive, and it's great to have them. But a mixed team is probably best.
Tell us about some of the projects you've worked on.
The first time I worked with Médecins Sans Frontières was in Zaire, which is now known as the Democratic Republic of Congo. I went there to work in North Kivu province on a project which involved epidemic preparedness in a very remote area of North Kivu. While I was there, the huge problem of a refugee crisis started with people coming over, escaping after the massacre and genocide in Rwanda. And in the course of 4 days, 800,000 people came across from the northern provinces of Rwanda into North Kivu province. There was very little there for them. It's a very poor country. They landed on an area in which there was very little water, and the water there was in the lake was contaminated with cholera. So the cholera epidemic started within a few days and swept through these thousands of people with a very, very high death rate in spite of all the efforts of both MSF and many other international organizations. I've also worked in Uzbekistan and some of the other Central Asian republics where there is a very big problem of drug-resistant tuberculosis, which is spreading rapidly. Latterly, I was working much more with malaria. Malaria is still a huge problem worldwide. There are millions of cases every year, and there are hundreds of thousands of young children, especially children under the age of 5, who die every year from malaria.
What challenges did you encounter?
There are a lot of challenges working with MSF. For example, when I was working in Congo during the cholera epidemic, we would leave our team house in the morning, having hopefully had enough to drink, but not be able to put your hands anywhere near your mouth for the whole of the day because of the risk of catching cholera from your contaminated fingers. There were not enough gloves, there was nowhere to wash during the day. So that was always a real risk. Other risks we face are from physical danger in conflict situations. there is a risk of being caught in crossfire, and I have lost friends and colleagues in this way.
Can you describe a typical MSF project team?
Yeah, a typical team involves some doctors and nurses, but a lot more people who are giving them all the backup that they need, especially logisticians and people who are involved with the transport and with the bringing in of the drugs from other countries and looking after the finances. And while the majority of the work in the field is done by staff who are recruited in the region, we also find it important to have staff coming, international staff, because of their objectivity and neutrality in the political situation where the conflict arises.
Give us your happiest memories from your work.
Some of the happiest times were seeing children recovering from severe malnutrition. These children can come into a feeding centre really utterly miserable with their hair falling out, very pot-bellied, skinny arms, skinny legs. And within a few weeks, they can be properly nourished, happy. That's the great thing. They get happy again, and they are able to walk and to walk off home with their families.
Do you have any regrets?
About my work, no. I always wanted to be a doctor. I always wanted to work overseas. I have been one of these very fortunate people who have never regretted my decision and have never regretted being a doctor.